Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to episode 3 of Wowhead Weekly. And as ever, I am joined by my co-host and Wowhead site director, Peculiar. How are you doing today, Perk?
Another Friday build to cover. So.
Hours of entertainment with builds and all sorts of exciting things going on in the beta. So we've got a bunch of cool things to talk about this week, actually. If you follow either of us on Twitter or if you follow Wowhead on Twitter, you'll have seen that there was a really, really cool set of models that we just put up on the site today, which is Friday. Obviously, we record this on a Friday. It doesn't go up till a Saturday morning. But we put up these really, really cool models of this druid talent, and I'm glad to get my notes to read it because I keep saying it wrong. So it's called Claws of Sheer Valor.
I think so.
Yeah, I think that's how you'd say it.
To make it sound cooler.
Yeah, exactly. So these only came out today, but the build was last night. Is that right, Perk?
Yeah, the build came out pretty late last night. I think it was right before the big power outage in Irvine.
Yes.
And they changed one of the new Feral Druid level 100 talents to be Claws of Shirvala, and it provides an alternate-looking cat form. And there was a lot of user requests. People wanted to know what it looked like, because, you know, obviously models are important to people.
Yeah.
And because so many people were asking about it, we decided to see if we could sort of stitch it together from existing models and change what we had to provide this to users.
So what exactly is the process behind it? Like, I must admit, I don't fully understand it myself. Like, we had the models last night, we had a ton of mounts, because I'm in Irvine, so I got hit by the power cut too, and I got my power back on, had a look at Wowhead, first thing I did, obviously, and there's been a ton of new mounts and all sorts of other stuff. So why did this one take a little bit longer? What was the extra work there?
So the actual models that we used were fully armored Saberon cats, and we had to sort of separate all the components and post the sort of naked model of them, and then also decide that the default pose you'd find them in would sort of be this stealth look on all fours as opposed to sort of being the normal upright posture. So we had to do a lot of manual tweaking to present these customized models to users, and then have them match up with what Blizzard was tweeting about, how each race would have a certain, color and background. So we found 4 of the clothed NPCs, and then we did some modifications to them.
Wow, so you're actually, that sounds like a ton of work. So you're actually taking the models from the game, which you know that they're these matching models. They're not, you didn't just pick that out of the air. You know which models they are. So you've taken all of the clothing, all of the armor off them, and then gone through and actually found the correct skins for each different race. That is
something to that effect. The model viewer dev uses all the technical terms, and I just formatted it up and posted it.
That is a ton of work. There's a ton of work. So do definitely go check those out. Wowhead.com, and you can have a look at that. And there's amazing looking models there. I actually also put together a video, which if we're watching this on YouTube, would have been the second most recent upload. So you can have a look at that there too. So all that aside, what do you actually think of them? What's your take on these cat forms? Do you like them? What's your thought?
I mean, I really like the Worgen one, the white one that's spotted with black. Yes. Reminds me. It's such a beautiful model, and I think they look pretty nice. Although I am curious, they look very muscular. If they'll be a more feminine form, the lady druids.
That's definitely come up a lot. Like I shared a bunch of them on Twitter because I was so excited. They're so cool looking. So I was like, I can come back and have a look at them in 3D, and then I made the video. And the whole time I was watching them, thinking they're very, very muscular. They're very, very heavy and big, and like they definitely look masculine to me. But then like I was thinking, oh well, like cats themselves don't really have discernible gender. Like none of the other druid forms have discernible gender either. Just like the Moonkin is obviously just a owl beast. Like you can't tell.
Get updated actually, because the Moonkin looks very sort of low resolution.
Yeah.
Forms that got updates in Mists of Pandaria, and now this.
Yeah, that's definitely true actually. I wonder if we'll see that with the character models, because it sort of would feel really out of place with the, the very, very pretty, like the base character models, which are so good looking, and then like you say, the updated forms. I wonder if they'll do that. But it's definitely sort of gender neutral, and maybe this is just sort of leaning a little bit too more towards the manly side for some people, because I've definitely had notes about that on Twitter.
Yeah, I've seen that a lot as well.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I don't think it's a huge complaint. The models are still really awesome. They're just very sort of masculine. And like my druid, the only druid I have is level 70, like it's a twink for PvP, and she's a Worgen. And so looking at the run, I was like, this is very similar to the Worgen Darkflight. So I was kind of thinking, like, this is very much like the sort of reskinned Worgen model. Is it weird that it's a Worgen that's then changing form and like going from a dog to a cat?
It's kind of funny.
It's kind of weird. A lady dog to a man cat, like part of a shapeshift. But it's a really, really cool looking model. My favorite is definitely the Worgen one as well, the white with the spots. So what do we think about the actual talent itself? Like, we're all so excited about the cat form. Do we think people are going to use it? How does it compare to the others?
I mean, I think people will use it just because they love appearances. So you might have people using it that it might not be the best talent for the situation, but you might find them using it.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's definitely. That is, sorry, cameras failed to change there for a second. Excuse me for that. Definitely, like, it's sort of, I would use it just for the cat form. I think it's so awesome. And it's definitely got some good elements. Like, you've got all of the non-damaging druid spells while in this form.
That seems really good for utility.
Seems really good for utility. And like someone who sort of does a lot of PvP, that sounds very strong. So you've got a ton of CC. You've got all of the heals that are available across different forms. And I know they've put back, for example, they've recently re-added Entangling Roots to all the druid forms. So you can actually now cast that from every form. Yeah, it's for everyone again now, whereas previously it wasn't. So it kind of makes you think that there's something going on that might be quite strong for PvP. And I think it also just looks really awesome. Which will definitely make people use it. And the versatility, like, I don't know if we've really seen that stat at full force yet to be able to accurately, like, talk about how strong 5% versatility is. I don't know if we know that.
Yeah, I mean, I think they've been adding versatility and multi-strike to more abilities and talents as the beta has progressed, but it's been very piecemeal. And, you know, a lot of people aren't level 100 yet or even doing a lot of raid testing, so we can't really see at this point.
Yeah, for sure. And actually, that's one thing to note. The build, we've obviously had the build up very, very recently, like last night, but the servers only went live at 2:30 p.m. today, Pacific time. It's now 4:30 p.m. Pacific time. So while obviously we've got a new build up, Perk and I haven't had a ton of time to test anything. I've managed to get almost all the way through to NAV, which we'll talk about later, but bear that in mind. Like, the servers have only just come up, and we'll have a ton more to tell you about all the new stuff in the next week's show. But for now, we're mostly just going to cover a bunch of the data mining from there. So speaking of that, couple of other things in the data mining new abilities. We've got Aspect of the Fox, which is a hunter utility ability, which seems really cool. And interestingly to me is the Grimoire Synergy, which is kind of almost like a lore-based change to the Grimoire tree for warlocks. And it's a swap out for Grimoire Sacrifice, specifically for demonology warlocks. And to me, I find it kind of cool. It kind of makes sense. Like, it felt very anti-thematic for demonology warlocks.
I agree that you sacrifice your demon.
Yeah.
It's all about demons, has it in the name.
Exactly. Like, this is the whole thing, and like there's a change there to just get rid of that. Like, I think that's really cool. Like, I would kind of love to see them doing that kind of thematic change for different specs to more other classes. Like, I was thinking of, you know, the different abilities that we've got for Shaman, which vary by spec, the Paladin ones. I'd love to see more of that, like particularly for pure DPS classes like Warlocks.
Yeah, I've noticed that a bit with rogues as well. There's always been some flavor how assassination rogues have daggers and combat rogues are, you know, in your face with axes, but there could be more things. Like, for example, Phantom Knives is what you get for assassination and subtlety now, and combat has Blade Flurry, but I just feel like combat needs something more in your face. It's not like a proactive, I'm going to AoE everything in range. It should be more, I don't know, I feel that the AoE should be in your face to match the non-subtle flavor of the spec.
Definitely, the desperately unsubtle rogue needs to be a little bit more unsubtle with their abilities. That would definitely be a really cool change. Like, one of the other things we've seen a lot of is Toybox updates as well. We've seen a bunch of those. Like, Perk is the Toybox expert. Basically, if you want to know what's in there, you've got to ask Perk. So I'm going to do exactly that. So what have we seen come and go? What's your thoughts on this?
So earlier this week, I wrote a large guide to the toy box, and I listed all the items by various sources, and then if you really want to know more about them, you can toggle and view all the sources and how you get them and their descriptions. And there were about maybe 110 items in that build. And it was a lot of teleport items, there were some trading card items, but not all, there were some holiday items, and in this recent build, what Blizzard did is they got rid of all the teleport items, so you can't use your Dire Brew remote, you can't use your Argent Crusade tabard to port, and they added about maybe 60 new items in, and it's much more thorough now. There are a lot of all the trading card items, all the archaeology items, you know, a few more fishing items, some from world events. So basically, we've got 170 items now, and they cover all sorts of cool vanity items. Some people are still sad that not all of them are in, and I hope that a few more are in because there are some inconsistencies. But basically, you can just put all your vanity items in this special account-wide collection, and it frees up your bag space, and it's account-wide, and you don't have to worry about deleting cool items to do anything with bag space ever again.
Yeah, that's a really really huge change. Actually, it's just a matter of like not having to worry about the bag space, and also that means that for things like the collecting achievements on places like the Timeless Isle, that's now very much cross character, and you actually get the items too. Like it's not only is the achievement counted across your characters, you actually got access to all of those cool things.
Yeah,
like
that was something I was always really sad about. I had started working on a bigger bag again, and I collected items on alts, but I'm thinking to myself, oh gee, I wish I could use this cool disguise item on my character that fits the disguise better.
Yeah, exactly. Like I have the silly seashells and the things that change, like turn you into like a dancing lady in a bikini and a seashell, and I love that. I use it all the time on my one chamois that's got it, and it's not like it's hard to get. I'm just lazy, so I haven't gone back down and killed the clam again to get it on different characters. And I just like I'm really happy that I can use it, and I'm really happy that all the cool toys that like my mains that I've had for a really long time but don't play so much anymore are now transferable onto characters which I play a lot, just because you know I've got the access to the different things there, and I think that's a really cool change. So is there anything big perk that you think is still missing? What you said, there are some inconsistencies. What do you think they should be putting back in there or putting in there in the first place?
Well, the first one that comes to mind is fairly minor, but they added some of the cool jewel crafting laser beams, and they added some but not all. So I was confused why they didn't add the rest of them in. There's been some controversy whether some items with stacks should be put in there, like Path of Illidan or the flowers.
Right.
And they've said it wasn't possible, but the jewel crafting items that made it in do have stacks, so I'm curious how that's going to turn out.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yes, I was just thinking that when you were saying that about stacks, those little things stack up. So yeah, that would be interesting. I think a bunch of people were surprised by they removed the safari hat, I believe. Is that correct?
Yeah, although I did hear that you just click on it, and it gives you a buff. So you don't have to worry about equipping it, and then you're fighting a mob, and you're in this hat that doesn't do it.
Yeah. Well, maybe that's the difference there then. But obviously, like there is a huge Toybox guide on Wowhead. Do go and check that out. It's in all our Warlords coverage, wowhead.com/warlords. Like all of the information that we're talking about in the show is all in there, so you can find it all. But like, there's definitely more to come to this. There's no way this is finished. There's no way this Toybox has final content in it right now. So don't freak out if your one favorite thing isn't in there. Like it could be added at any time, so don't worry. The other thing we've seen is a bunch more updates to holiday stuff. So there's a bunch of the epics have had their item levels increase to 600. Is that right?
Yeah, and that's actually interesting speculation because even epics for the Brewfest boss are now 600.
Oh.
So people could go, oh, you know, do they want Warlords to be out? And then you could access higher Brewfest. But on the other hand, Blizzard has put items in that we don't see for you know, patches later. So I'm not sure what's going on with that, but you know, it looks like they've just 600 is the level for all of the epics in Warlords, and that's not super exciting on its own, but there's a ton of vanity items which I'm more excited about.
Yeah, definitely. So speaking of the epics, like we did this with Mr. Pandaria. Do you remember that around Mr. Pandaria, like Wowhead data mined all of the updated epics for the for Halloween, for Hallow's End, and we were all sort of like, oh, it's going to release, and then it did. So maybe maybe this means that we're getting close to the point where we're going to get a release date, and then it's going to be in time. Oh man, I'd be so happy. Like it kind of has to be, I feel, because BlizzCon is just around the corner after Hallow's End. And if they didn't have it done by then, there would be something kind of crazy going on, I think.
I think Mr. Pandaria actually launched in the middle of Brewfest, and they said that max level characters couldn't... You had to be max level to fight the boss.
That's right.
And they changed that, so if you weren't max level, you could still participate.
Yeah, no, sorry, you're absolutely right with Brewfest.
Maybe something like that will happen.
Maybe, or maybe we just won't get them until next time around, which would be kind of sad.
Yeah.
So do you think, having done a ton of the data mining, like with all the items, do you think 600 is high enough?
I mean, a lot of the items are shifting in values. We've guides to this, but basically one item can have like 5 different variations on it now. So maybe we'll see some additional item data added where they'll be boosted up in level. But right now it looks like some dungeon gear is 630, so 600 seems a little low. If running a dungeon is 630 at 100, but I guess we'll see. A lot of the data changes every patch, so maybe this will too. Yeah,
definitely. It's highly possible that they'll increase the item level. So talking about the vanity items, are there new vanity items that have gone in?
Yeah, that's the really exciting part. So we found different battle pets for various holidays, like Love is in the Air. Noble Garden gets a bouquet that you can summon. There's a bush chicken model. There's a little pink shore strider mount that matches mount pet that matches a mount you already get from Love is in the Air. And there's also achievements. So it looks like Day of the Dead is getting fleshed out to where you put on these contender disguises with all sorts of goofy names, and you then have to fight contenders and you get various achievements for beating contenders. So I'm really excited to see that.
Yeah, that sounds so cool.
It was really neat how the marionette finally became a battle pet last year, and I think that the holiday has a lot of potential with sort of the art and the creepy graveyard and the flowers, and I'd like to see that expand into, you know, a cool, more robust event.
Definitely. That's like Day of the Dead is always one of those like, particularly as someone from Europe, we don't celebrate that so much, but it's such an exciting, cool holiday with so much cool folklore and story around it. And I'm definitely really excited to see that expanded. A couple of other things
of Hollow's End, the Arthas disguise. A lot of people have really been excited by that.
Yeah.
It's you can turn into Arthas, and it only has 50 charges, so it has to be, you know, I guess you can't be Arthas forever, but a lot of people have left really hilarious comments on the Wowhead page for this disguise item. Just, you know, making comments like, oh, I could use the Death Knight talent to file with this disguise, and it would be
that would be so cool. And you could get like the little Valkyr pet and use to file with the disguise. That would be amazing. That would be so much fun. A couple of other notable things from the build that we've seen. One of the things that really caught my eye is the Tree Assassin's Guide, which from the tooltip, like, we don't seem to have a 3D model on that yet. We'll certainly find it in game and try and get pictures of that for you, screenshots for the guides and everything. But it sounds like it transforms you into a stationary tree. And the reason which I find this exciting is in Shadow Moon Valley, and I've seen them in Gorgrond as well, I think, and also in Talador, definitely in Talador, not so sure about Gorgrond. But there are these tree models called the Draenor Ancient, and part of what they do, they stand still, sort of like with their arms up, and just sort of turn into a stationary tree. And I, having read the description on this Tree Assassin's Guide, which makes you remain stationary, but you turn into a tree, and I'm so excited that it might be turning you into a Draenor Ancient, because I love those models so much. They look like adorable, grumpy old men, and I just
they look like the Night Elf Tree Ancients, but
angrier. Yes, like angrier, like stompy. Yeah, exactly, like these stoically, like grumpy, stompy guys. And I'm just so excited. If it turns you into a Draenor Ancient, oh my god, I'm just gonna like leave my characters logged out being trees in places. I'm so excited for that one. And we saw a bunch of new mounts as well. Like it's a bit different from what we've seen before. There's a lot of placeholders, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of placeholders, but there's a lot of Elix and Klepshoofs in different colors. So
cool.
I hope some of those seem like they could make it to live. But yeah, I'm very curious to see if the 50 mount placeholders we data mined will turn into real awesome mounts in the future. We haven't seen a lot of mounts yet, although we have seen the mount journal get updates with really cool flavor text under each entry.
Definitely, yeah. Is it normal that we have placeholder mounts? Like, is that a normal thing that we see with data mining?
I mean, sometimes, like, we see it more often with items where they'll just have a bunch of loot called, like, 6.0 PH, Agi, Trinket 1, and then a few builds later it's like, Trinket of Awesome from this boss, you know, with a better name.
Yeah.
Not so much with spells, but I mean, if they're trying to get stuff out and play with tech things, I can see why they did a cut and paste on that.
Definitely, yeah. So we'll look forward to seeing those. And obviously, as soon as anything does happen with those, we'll keep you updated. So keep an eye on the website. So moving on, one of the things we do every week is give you a little update with what's going on Wowhead. And this week is no exception. So we've got a bunch of beta key information for you. So we've got our usual beta key giveaway going on. Pert, remind me what we're asking people to do this week.
So because we want you to celebrate Curse of Naxxramas, we want you to either complete the Hearthstone achievement, or complete a wing of Naxxramas in game. It can be, you know, 10 player, 25 player, Arachnid Quarter, you know, Saffron, just, you know, go out there and clear a wing. And you can do the wing or Hearthstone. It doesn't have to be both.
Yeah, so the Hearthstone achievement is got by winning. Is winning 3 games in play mode in Hearthstone, or is it just completing? Yeah. It is winning. So you do that, and then you go into WoW after you've done that, and you'll get a mount on your account, and also the Hearthstone achievement. So it'll give you the Hearthsteed mount. And obviously, if you've got this on your character already, then you don't need to go like somehow magically redo it. It's already registered on your character that's registered and verified on our profiler. And that's where we've got to a bit of a hiccup this week, right? So something's gone wrong on Blizzard's end with the it's really sad. We hate it when people can't enter our contests, particularly when there's nothing we can do about it because it's an error on Blizzard's end. So what exactly is going on what's the actual problem here?
So we had all this extended maintenance on Tuesday, and then what happened is the armory just stopped updating.
That's good.
And it still isn't really updating except for a few realms. So basically, if you log off, if you get a new piece of gear, if you've equipped it, your armory won't show any of these changes. And to verify your character on Wowhead, you need to take certain armor pieces off and then refresh the armory, refresh Wowhead, and you're set. So the armory is blocking us right now, and that's really sad.
That is really sad. So it's not for every realm, though, right? It's for some realms. It's not all realms that have got this problem. So you might, don't let this put you off. You may well be on one of the realms that's unaffected, and the only way to find out if you're affected, unfortunately, is to try. We'd love to tell you exactly which realms are I believe your realm's affected?
Yeah, my realm's affected, although if you have previously verified a character and you have the achievements from a past giveaway, then you should be able just to enter the contest. So in that case, being an early contributor.
Early adopter of the contest is a good thing for this week, unfortunately. Much as we wish that it wasn't the case, it's a bit difficult for people on certain realms to register new characters or to complete the achievements that we're asking you to do to enter the contest. So because we hate it when you guys can't win beta keys from us, what we've decided to do is Perk and I have previously done Twitter beta key giveaways. So we're going to do another one so that all you people who are currently unable to enter the contest, and we're really hoping that Blizzard are going to fix this soon as well, by the way.
We've been emailing them.
We haven't just sat around and gone, oh no, gosh, what are we going to do? We've emailed them a ton. We've been pestering them every day to try and get this sorted out. They've managed to fix it for, I believe, 16 of the affected realms.
Yeah, that's what I've heard.
Yeah, so there's actually steps being taken, and there is a solution. It's just a matter of them getting it applied to all the realms. So don't worry, we're doing our best to get you in to our competition so that you can win a beta key. But in the meantime, we thought we'd do another Twitter one. So this week we are going to be asking you, what is our favorite, so let me just state that again for clarity, because that was confusing last week. What is our favorite, my favorite, Perk's favorite, let's go that the wrong way, 5-man dungeons. So if you watch the previous show, you're going to have a little bit of a head start on, you might know already where to go to find this out. So we've got this information on our Wowhead user profiles. So what you need to do is navigate to the Wowhead user profiles, and we're not going to make it super easy for you by telling you precisely where to go, but suffice it to say that there are often something like wowhead.com/user equals, and then a name, which might correspond to our Twitter names, potentially. You should just, consider that when you're looking for them. And on there, it may or may not state which our favourite 5-man instances are. So once you've done that, you need to tweet at us with the link on Wowhead for the zone. It'll be zone, which the 5-man instance is. So say, for example, for some reason, mine is Ragefire Chasm. You need to find the actual link for that zone and tweet at me with that and the hashtag Olivia Beta Giveaway. And for Perk, and hers for some reason is, what should we have Perks be? Perks is Blackrock Caverns.
Elves in it.
It has elves in it. Oh, that doesn't surprise you, actually. Perk loves elves. So you'd have to find that on Wowhead and tweet at Perk. And again, the user Twitter names are above and below our screens. And you have to tweet at Perk with Perk Beta Giveaway and the link to the Wowhead zone for her favourite 5-man dungeon. And what you'll do then is we'll enter you into a draw. We'll be drawing random people using the hashtags. So make sure you use the hashtags. If you don't use the hashtags, you can do everything else right, but we can't actually select randomly with just tweets at us. So we have to have a way to filter them, and we're using hashtags for that. So then do that, and we will select people from that list to win a beta key. Simple as that. So if you're unable to get into the Wowhead competition, we're really sorry, we're working on it, and in the meantime, enter the Twitter beta giveaway. Moving on, we've also had a really, really exciting thing on our sister site, Hearthhead. Now, Perk, I know you've been dealing with this a ton, so tell us what exactly happened this week on Hearthhead.
So Curse of Naxxramas launched, and that means it was, mass data mining time and feature development time for Hearthhead, which covers everything you want to know about Hearthstone. And it was pretty interesting because for WoW, we get our data in advance, the way Blizzard handles the data, but for Hearthstone, we only were able to update the site pretty much like literally when the expansion launched. So we were both frantically working to get all the new cards up on the site, and as users are wanting to use them for the first time. So it's been pretty hectic, but we have tons of awesome unique things up, like we have golden animated cards up for all the collectible cards. We have a hub up for all the adventures, all the regular and heroic bosses. We even have a page with the class challenges, which exposes what boss you were faced against to get a certain card which wasn't previously announced. So we have tons of cool things. Even we have sounds for all the bosses, their emotes. So a ton of really awesome things, whether you're just, casually playing and just want to get that card back or unlock a wing, to if you really want to have in-depth strats to beating a heroic boss and just want to filter, to beat like heroic Mixna. So lots of cool things there. We've got strats up, we've got guides, we've got all sorts of updated cool data that's constantly coming in, and site's really awesome. The Wowhead team's been also working on that same high level of quality with awesome data and user-friendly tools.
Yeah, absolutely. And really do check out, if you're even a little bit into Hearthstone, check out Hearthhead, because there's so much useful stuff on there. There's so much useful information. But we absolutely haven't forgotten about Wowhead. Of course, we haven't forgotten about Wowhead. You've seen a ton of posts this week. There's so much information gone up on Wowhead. So much data on Wowhead this week. So we've had the builds, we've got the new model stuff, we've had a ton of posts. Check out the front page, and it's all there. And we've also added a ton of the mount flavor text, which Perk mentioned earlier, to the specific mount pages. Is that right?
Yeah, that was at the start of the week. It launched right when Nax did, so that was sort of buried in announcements. But it's really cool. There's really cool flavor text on all the mounts. It's just really fun to browse.
Yeah, definitely. And we've also, this week, we've introduced the new Wowhead rep rewards. So with Wowhead, obviously, you know that you get reputation. I think Perk has like 2 million or something crazy like that. The best way to get that is to get comments on which are upvoted. So if you go onto a new, like if you found something in Warlords and you go onto an item, or you go into something existing and make a really useful comment, a bunch of people are going to upvote that, and then your reputation is going to increase. So, or you write an awesome guide. There's a tons of what are other ways to get reps?
Screenshots are really cool too. Pictures worth 1,000 words, and take pictures of your garrison or battle pets or cool armor you're getting, and that's worth a decent amount of rep as well. So, comment, screenshot, upload data with the Wowhead client. You can find it all under the community section on our navigation menu, all the different ways you can gain site rep and all the privileges.
Yeah, exactly. So we've added some new ones this week. So you've got the borders for, I can't remember exactly what levels of rep you get the different borders, unfortunately.
It's every 5K. We had these borders going around forever, and I'm just like, hey, we should give them to these really, awesome contributing
Absolutely.
users.
Yeah, and the really exciting thing, which we're really cool, it's really cool that we're able to do this, is if you've got 25k rep or above, you are automatically given Wowhead Patron for free. So we spoke about Wowhead Patron before. It's kind of like a way to support Wowhead by giving us a small donation every month, where you can buy chunks of time at a time to make it a little bit cheaper. It allows you to do things like select whether you want ads on the site or not. It adds these really, really awesome pictures to all your tooltips. That's a recent addition as well.
Especially with the Toybox.
Oh my god, yes. It's like, when you mouse over everything, it's like, oh, that's what that looks like. So if you're looking for a specific transmog item and you just want to check someone's stuff out, you could just mouse over it, and then right there's the picture. It's so cool. But we're really happy to be able to give that to our top guys, 25k rep. So if you're sitting shortly but a little below 25k rep, this is kind of an ideal time to grind out that little bit of additional rep, and then you get Wowhead Patron for free. What more could you want? It's fantastic. So we're really, really happy to be able to do that for our top contributors, and it's great. Wowhead is so much the community as well. There's such a great community element to Wowhead, and we're really grateful for all your contributions. So moving on, back to the beta, we've got Spires of Arak and Legrand are now playable. So as we mentioned earlier, we've only had the beta realms up for 2 hours. A power station exploded in Irvine.
What amazing time. I was busy with work yesterday. So
oh my god.
I didn't have to log on and cover it.
It was so funny because I was like chatting to my and Perk's boss, and I was like, oh gosh, there's a build just come up. I'm going to go back over to my computer. I stood up, walked towards my computer, and the power went off. I was like, oh, for God's sake. So I've left Perk. I was sick last Friday. Oh, I know, 2 in a row. I feel absolutely dreadful about it. But long story short, the power was out in Irvine, which is where I am, but also where Blizzard is. So they were unable to get the beta realms active until this afternoon. And so there's only been up for about 2 hours. And I'm assuming that you've been far too busy to log on at all, Perk.
Well, I mean, I have been busy, but I've also gotten warnings from friends saying, hey, you know, things are crashing again. Like, I can't really level. You know, what's going on? I have to go around Tanan again. This is just bad. So,
yeah.
I don't know. Last week, I felt kind of burned because last week I had so many bugs, so much lag, and I decided I was going to level multiple characters to get my garrisons finally working. And I leveled 2 characters to 96 and all this lag, and then they announced this character wipe.
Oh, so, yeah.
I don't know if I want to brute force myself.
It's so sort of heartbreaking because you put so much effort in. It's so much effort to, because I was sort of trying to help with the Horde side staff was doing the same thing, leveling characters to try and get the different outposts in Gorgrond and Talador, and it's so, the PvP realm which I'm on seems to be like 1% better than the PvE realm that Perk mostly plays on, and it's just like, oh, it's so bad. And like Gorgrond, which is one of the zones added last week, is so broken. Or, I mean, okay, might not be now. We haven't had the chance to really log on. And we don't know because we have to go through Tanan again. But it was so broken last week that there was all sorts of things going wrong. But I actually managed to log in. I thought, right, okay, I'm going to try and get through Tanan. So when they wipe characters, you have to go through Tanan again. Like, you must have done it, like, how many times have you done Tanan now?
I'm so tired of that.
Oh, my God.
I mean, a lot of people thought that... there is a realm coming, a PvE realm, where you can be level 100 and test things like garrisons or all sorts of other stuff, or just, you know, go through all the trainer zones at max level, which you can't on the PvP realm. So people thought that was
right,
fun, but no, you have to go, if you want to hit a level 100 right now, you have to start from 90 and go through everything.
Yeah, so yeah, I'm currently taking a character through Tanan I must be going through Tanan for the 7th or 8th time
Are there any differences there now?
There are, yeah. Well, there's some minor differences. There's a slight difference in the Worldbreaker pushing down the plunger, where it sort of says, oh, don't draw, like you get that thing where you carry the barrel on your back that lets you write, the thing we were talking about the other week, and there's a little bit of flavor text in the quest now which is saying like don't do anything that like out of order or rude or untoward or something, like no drawing naughty pictures with the black stuff, okay? But they've added a boss. And from the people who were talking about it on the beta, it seems like it may have been in very briefly before, but I haven't seen it. So it's been, if it was added before, it was added between when I last completed Tanan, which was the day before the realms came down, to now. So it's possible, but it doesn't seem that likely. But it's a new boss. It's just before you climb up the tank, and that's all I'm going to say. I'm not going to give you any more spoilers because I don't want to spoil the zone for you. It's very story focused. But at the moment, it's not shared tap.
Oh no, that's terrible. Like,
so I was like, right, yeah. So I was like, there was a couple of other things which we found. Oh, it's so bad. It's so bad. And there's a couple of other things which we found out through other people. But I was thinking, right, I'm going to go check out the garrison, see what's changed in the Horde garrison, level through, and I got to this boss, and there's just like, even just on beta, where like hardly any people have access to it really, there's like 20-30 people spamming AoEs on the ground to try and pick up this boss. It's insane. So if that goes, I sincerely doubt it will go live like that. I really doubt it'll go live like that, because
hopefully they can even hotfix it because no one can really
fingers crossed. Yeah, because people are really getting stuck there, and like we all know what WoW players are like as WoW players ourselves. People will just stay there. People will just have it on the other screen, like watch a cartoon or play some League of Legends and just be there spamming their AoEs. So it's a really horrible situation. But other than that, Tanan seems very much the same. There's no real differences there. And it's obviously way easier to play through all the other bits of it with other people there. But yeah, and I've heard from some other people that Overlord Sourfang is now missing from the Horde garrison and has been replaced with Warmaster Zog. So that's curious. Yeah. I don't know who Warmaster Zog. I'm not a huge lore person, but I don't know who.
I mean, I play a lot. I know who he is.
Yeah, I've heard of him. Like,
seemed pretty cool to have in your garrison.
Yeah, like Overlord Sourfang is hanging out with you in your garrison, helping you do strategies and stuff like that. That's pretty cool. Warmaster Zog, maybe he's just a placeholder. Who knows? And apparently, I've heard this as well. Like, I haven't experienced it myself. One of the first quests sends you to Ashran. So that's exciting. So the very, very first thing that they're asking you to do in your garrison is to head out to Ashran. So
maybe do you know if it's the actual battleground, or is it's just showing how to get to your capital?
Yeah, that could well be it. That seems more likely. But the problem which the person who was telling me about it had was that as soon as they hit the portal to zone, they got disconnected. And Ashran, when they then logged back in again, Ashran had that no man's zone buff in it. So, you get the hunter mark on your head, and then you get the blizzard buff, and then you get ported. So they had this hilarious situation where, like, they then have to, like, apparently it's being hotfixed to have the Ashran zone no man's land buff lifted. But they then have to swim back to Ashran because now the portal's gone. So they've got to make their way across there. So that's entertaining.
Maybe I'll take a little break.
Yeah, it might be time to, go out and have a glass of wine and maybe come back to the beta next week. But we've got the, like we were mentioning earlier, we've had a character wipe. There's no level 100 PvE server. The servers have been renamed, but they're still obvious which one's a PvE and which one's a PvP server. But we haven't really had the chance yet to test out the new zones. We'll have a ton of information for you on that next week. So what we have got a ton of time testing on is Gorgrond and Talador, which were the zones that went in on the last build. Now, Perk was talking about all of her traumatic leveling experiences. What was your sort of overview of the two zones, like sort of in a nutshell?
Well, I guess a pro of leveling multiple characters was that I was able to take all the various quest paths, because in both zones you can decide which garrison outpost you want. You have a choice to make, and that affects maybe about half the questing you do in the zone. So for Gorgrond, I've done the lumber mill and the sparring arena routes. I really prefer the sparring arena because you get these really cool gladiators that give you these very overpowered buffs when you're in the zone. You summon one like every 10 minutes, and they give you this powerful buff for 5 minutes, and it was fun tracking all the gladiators down. And then in Talador, which I like because it reminds me of Terrakar Forest, and that's one of my favorite Outland zones, you choose between a path that takes you to the Mage Tower, or to the Armory. And both paths there are really fun. You interact with some really cool NPCs that eventually become some garrison followers, and so I've done those paths as well. I like Talador more than Gorgrond just because Talador had a lot of rare spawns and events and cool loot implemented, while Gorgrond was very much a placeholder, and you could kill rares, like Bashiok is in, but you drop these vignette placeholder grays. So that was not as exciting to discover. But maybe this build, it will be there. Yeah,
and they've actually mentioned on Twitter that they're going to be fixing a lot of Gorgrond, because I was sort of complaining yesterday that I was, had a real lot of trouble leveling through Gorgrond. Because part of what I do for Wowhead is I make a lot of videos. So I was thinking, I'll do a fly-through video. That'll be cool. I'll be able to show people what the zone looks like. And a good... Well, I leveled up to Gorgrond for Alliance and Horde to try and get the flight points, because I thought, well, they get different ones for different factions. And Alliance has 2 flight points in Gorgrond, and the Horde has 1.
Well, there's more, but they've...
There's more, yeah. They're all there. They're on the map. And you have to do your garrison outpost to get one of them as well. Like, there's a flight point with your garrison outpost. But yeah, they were just so, like, you'd run up to where the flight point is, you can see a Tauren, you can see a little nest, and there's nothing. Like, he just does nothing, or he just disappears. And I managed to get one where I actually alt-tab to complain to someone about the flight points, and I tabbed back in, and there was suddenly a bird there, and I was like, oh gosh, okay, that flight point. But yeah, the Gorgrond zone, like, it's still, that rainbow area in the Gorgrond zone is still incredibly pretty.
It would be really nice to see the fly-throughs, just because half the zone is, very rocky and barren, and the other half is very lush with rainbows, and there's even this vivid red mushroom area.
Yes.
And it would be really cool to fly over and see how the two parts of the zones kind of mesh together and how they transition, and just even the barren part, it looks a lot better, I think, flying, because you can see the ups and downs on the massive rocks for scale, which you can't always see in a screenshot.
No, absolutely. And I was really excited to do it as well, so I started with that one and was just like running around, just going crazy with the flight points. I did a bunch of questing. Every time I found a rare, I killed it. And I was doing it on a level 91 shaman, so it was a little bit difficult. Yeah, it was a little bit tricky killing rares. I did die due to pulling a ton of mobs a couple of times, but yeah, it was kind of tricky. But there was not really much. Again, like Perk was saying with the Bashiok rare, they were kind of dropping placeholder items. There wasn't anything hugely exciting, which I discovered from there, unfortunately. So Gorgrond at the moment definitely seems very incomplete. And although obviously we're hopefully going to see a ton of improvements in the build that's up right now, but I feel like Gorgrond was maybe they were just a little behind on that one and they wanted to release the zones after it, so they were just trying to get it out like in any kind of workable state. But it's a really cool zone. My preference again is definitely for Talador, but I think it's just because there's so much more there. Like maybe I would love Gorgrond if it was complete, but it so isn't right now.
Like there just were so many items in Talador, and the lore just felt so much stronger. Maybe this would be if I go to a hub, I actually see NPCs that interact.
Yeah, maybe that's it.
And there is the really powerful draw of, you're seeing Oxenden as, as this very lush, detailed, thriving temple, and you're also seeing Shattrath City. So, I mean, those are two major, hubs that people love from Outland. So I think there's a certain pull of, seeing them, thriving. Shattrath is gorgeous. There's like flowers, gardens, housing. There's even an area with balloons and people partying.
It's so cool, and it's really lovely to sort of see like what Alkindune was like prior to what it turned into. And like I was really enjoying going around that zone because there were definitely sort of memorable things there, even for someone like me who doesn't pay a ton of attention to the story. There was a ton of, oh my goodness, there's pop-ups on perk screen, that's very exciting, but there was a ton of like different things there for all kinds of different like cities and memorable things that you remember from going through those zones in the Burning Crusade. So I don't know, like my preference was definitely for Talador. And did you see the Archmage Khadgar's tower, which you could go through with the portal in the like mushroom world?
Yeah,
that was so cool.
When I picked the Mage Tower, and that was so cool, and just this sort of alternate world.
Yeah,
it looked very pretty, that the colors and the lighting used for it, and the few quests there as well. So yeah, I love little details like that. Even how there was like the area where you fight demons, and there's several rare spawns that drop this vanity item that has this sort of like mini scene with the burning legion pop up. So there's a pedestal with this Eridar. Right now he's Eridar Lord Bob. But I think that's just really cool flavor.
Yeah.
In the zone, fighting demons. Or you're in this area with birds, and if you loot a nest, you get a little cute bird pet. So cool. Yeah, there is a lot of sort of effective flavor done there, I think.
Definitely. Any favorite rares? Any favorite vignettes or anything like that?
So there's two things that I think are pretty cool. One is this cave, and you have to go through all these various lasers and traps to get to a cave, which drops this really adorable sort of mechanical pet. It's like a mechanical dog, I think. And that looks really cool, and it's a really neat way to get to it. It's not just a chest in the cave. It has, these lasers which fit the theme of the pet. And the other thing that's really cool is that there's this very cool transmog sword that's in a burning area, and the sword is sort of on fire. And it looks really cool in the model viewer, but it seems bugged because I'm a rogue, and it says that I should be able to equip, obviously, one-hand swords.
Yeah.
But that's in red for me. So maybe I'll try it on a non-rogue and see if I can actually wear it. But it looks really awesome, and I'm glad that I found those twos. And just, I don't really have a favorite quest because like they're all pretty effective. Like you're saving some Draenei from homes that are destroyed. It's really neat to see people interacting with their cities that they know and love, or being like, oh, I remember this area from Outland, and it looks better. Like, oh, they were the Arakoa, and instead of just killing them, instead is banding together with them, and yeah, that's all pretty cool.
Definitely, yeah. No, it's a really lovely zone. I'm really hoping that we're going to see a ton of improvement to Gorgrond with this next build. Now, also this week, we obviously had the female Tauren model revamp. This has been a bit of a controversial one, actually. Like the feedback, like obviously we read all the comments on Wowhead, so if you comment on a post, we'll have read it. Don't worry. But there's been a mix of like responses to this, I find, and like they were very similar to the male Tauren ones, where I think a bunch of people felt like they were a little bit too Disney and kind of missing that sort of stoic strength that the old model had. What was your take on the model?
So I mainly have Alliance characters, but I liked how their torsos were proportioned better. So I feel like a lot of the comments that people are concerned about are the faces, but I do think that their bodies do sort of fit together better. We haven't seen them in action yet, so I don't know if their walking animations make sense or not. But looking at them at a glance, I think that they look better, but I can see if people are attached to a certain type of face, and if that affects how they view their character's concept, if they're suddenly like, wait, this face doesn't really resemble
definitely
how my character perceives things in WoW.
Yeah, for sure. And I feel like particularly if you're a Tauren, you have that feeling of like the stoic plains runner, very sort of quiet strength and that sort of very reserved sort of feel to them. And I can totally understand how someone who has their character identified in that way could really object to the sort of slightly goofy looking Disney faces. But I do think in the art craft that they have a habit of going for the extreme expressions. Like they pick the expressions that are really sort of out there and kind of extreme to show what the faces can do, like to show.
We do that too. Even when we do our model viewer previews, we're like, okay, well, let's get the face, the no or the rude or the flirt and not the shrug.
Yeah, we don't take the shrug, we take the sort of the roar and like the shy and the ones which are really animated. And I think that's kind of what they're doing with these art craft posts. But I think that may be part of the problem. But there are definitely going to be, like with the male Tauren, and you can check out, there's a video of the male Tauren up on the Wowhead YouTube channel, you can check that out. And I do think that like you could see in there that he's still got that strength and he's still got that sort of power to him, and he's not like a goofy, he's not Pluto, he's like still like a strong, powerful character, but they've just chosen these goofier expressions for the art craft. And I don't think that I don't think the concerns are unfounded. Like how people identify with their characters is hugely important to people's enjoyment of the game. Like I'm complaining about my undead female because I don't feel like,
and I was concerned about my night elf as well because he's stoic and I'm like, she's all bouncy.
Yeah, exactly. Like my crazy mage doesn't look crazy anymore. She looks kind of reserved, and it's like, well, that's boring. And I definitely would never want to say that anyone is wrong in like not liking a model change or not liking an updated face, but just maybe give them a chance, like give us at Wowhead a chance to get them into the model viewer, and we'll make a video and you can look at them and you can look at your female Tauren. If you have a female Tauren, you can load her up in the model viewer, see what she may well look like. Obviously these models aren't 100% finished necessarily when they go into the model viewer or onto the beta, so bear that in mind. But you can see what your Tauren will look like in the beta and in Warlords potentially. So check it out, give it a chance. Like I'm just saying, don't write it off as, oh god, this is a Disney Pixar model just yet.
I have been listening to feedback. Like last week we had a series of tweets how Blizzard was saying that they were paying attention and they wanted to reduce some facial features, and they totally understood people. So have faith if they understand. People feel really attached to their characters, and they seem to be listening and trying to change things.
Definitely, yeah. So it's comforting, at least, even if you don't like the model right now. I think it's like looking at the old female Tauren model, like it had so many stretched textures and like blocky sections, and
the fur looked very sort of low resolution.
Yeah, I think it was one of those things for me where, like, I've played a few female Taurens. I've never had a max level female Tauren, but I hadn't really realized how bad the old model looked until they put the new one next to it, and then you suddenly realize that, oh wow, this old model wasn't that great. But personally I like it. I like the smaller hands, I like the slightly shorter arms, I like the changes they've made. I think the color scheme which they had in the art craft didn't match up at all, and that probably doesn't help either, but I have faith. I believe in them that they'll get it right, just as I believe that they'll fix my undead lady. So last up this week, before we hit some of your viewer questions, we obviously found out, enormously exciting, I know that I was just on the edge of my seat, Perk, I know that you were hugely excited. There may be an element of sarcasm here, guys. We were both hugely excited, ridiculously excited to find out how we'd finally get our hands on our Azeroth chopper.
Oh my god, I'm so excited as a Alliance.
Yeah, exactly, as a principally Alliance player. So what you have to do to get your Azeroth chopper, your Horde chopper, is log in. So you have to log into WoW. It's not a particularly difficult task. So you have to log in between now and I believe the cutoff is September 30th. So you have to log in between now and September 30th, and then you'll get your chopper once Warlords releases.
And yeah, that's basically it. And I will probably, for April Fool's, make up an Alliance chopper and say that we data mined it.
If it hasn't been released, I mean, I honestly, I can't believe it. Like I would find it really hard to believe that the Alliance chopper won't be out. Like, it's not going to be out between now and September 30th when the Horde one is exclusive.
I mean, like, so much work went into it, and it did look really cool.
Yeah.
I mean, I think some parts of the show, I mean, I think that the actual bike creation was pretty interesting, and the craft that went into it. I wish more of the show actually showed that.
Yeah.
It didn't really, but yeah.
Yeah.
I think it'd be really cool to see the actual bike make it in, because there was a lot of cool art and metalworking that went behind it.
For sure. Like, I wish they'd done more. Like, I didn't enjoy the sort of drama elements. Like, there's a lot of forced drama in reality TV sometimes.
I didn't really understand, like, these guys are professionals.
Yeah.
And they've clearly made lots of bikes. And just, I was just confused. Like, oh, someone left the team. Like, why can't you guys find a
surely there must be another mechanic in the world who can do this. But yeah, no, I thought the bikes themselves were cool. Like, I liked the bikes. I didn't like the snowmobile tracks. I wish they'd had wheels. But I thought the bikes were amazing, and I wish I could have seen more of the metal work, more of the leather work, more of the craftsmanship that went into actually building them. Like, that would have been awesome. Like, the carving of the tusks, you know? There was a ton of work there. Like, I would have loved to see that.
How they did all the designs for the Alliance shield, and how they decided to put the different, racial emblems on the sides of the bike. Like, that would be really cool. Like, I don't want to see Blizzard flying to New York and complaining about the snow being bad.
Yeah, as a New Yorker yourself right now, like, that must have just been like, oh my goodness, what on earth? But yeah, so there you go. That's how you that's how you get your chopper. And Perk and I will both eat our hats if the Alliance chopper doesn't make it into the game eventually. And will definitely be there'll be a data mine version of it around April if it's not in the game by then.
Yep.
Absolutely. So every week we are looking to answer your viewer questions. So we've got a hashtag again, Wowhead Weekly hashtag, which is hashtag W for whiskey, H for hotel, weekly. So obviously, again, that just allows us to filter the tweets so that we don't have to deal with all of the tweets that we get, and we can just go through them and easily link to a hashtag and find your questions. So this week we've got some questions in from that hashtag. So I will read the first one then from Astelnar. About Garrison's Inn and new followers, do we decide who joins via the inn, or is it auto-join? Is there a selection process?
So the inn, well, as of the last build, the inn was not really in yet. So you could buy certain blueprints for Billings, but not the inn. But you could still get a lot of Garrison followers. Usually as you're questing, either lengthy quests or even, really short ones, they generally end up rewarding followers. And in select zones that have garrison outposts, as you do quests to go down your outpost path, that also leads to specific followers. So, if you go down the mage tower path, you end up recruiting a mage to your garrison. If you go down the armory path, you end up recruiting a warrior instead. So I've been finding lots of followers via questing, even the pleasure bot 8000 in Talador, this very strange engineering NPC. And then you have the special followers UI when you get back to your garrison and your mission desk. And then you have a list of followers, and you have missions that say, certain threats, and you can pick the follower that has the abilities that best counter that threat, and you just sort of drag and drop them in, and then they go on their mission for about half an hour or so. Now, there might be more with the end, but we just haven't been able to test that yet. But I've gotten, definitely over 10 followers just from, questing and exploration.
Definitely. And there's some the very first one you get on the Horde side at least is Olin Umberhide. And we remember his name because they were all called Olin Umberhide for a while.
Yeah, that was the placeholder name. Yeah. The templates.
Yeah, exactly. So you just go and find him. It's one of the first quests you were getting in your Horde garrison was to go and find this guy, and then he's one of your followers. It's really that easy. So I don't think if people are worried that they're not going to have any followers, don't. You kind of can't avoid getting followers. I haven't found any followers coming from dungeons yet, so I feel like there is a requirement at least to do some questing to get followers. But then, of course, if you're able to level entirely through dungeons and get your inn built, then you'll be almost certainly getting followers coming through there. But it is worth definitely, even as someone who levels mostly through dungeons, I would certainly say it's worth doing the initial garrison quests at least, just to pick up those first few followers and get yourself started. Then as soon as you've got followers, you can start doing the missions, and then it sort of builds up from there. And it's a really good way to get some resources as well. So,
yeah, definitely.
Oh, sorry. So next question then from the Slick Rock. Are we going to see some other nice BOAs from archaeology like the Mists ones?
So, we data mined a bunch of archaeology projects a few builds ago, and they offer common ones, I think. But just today, we haven't found any BOA weapons, but we did find a Frostwolf pup battle pet, and the source says that it's from archaeology. So that is really cool because the model is awesome. And maybe this means that in a future build, we'll be seeing more unique archaeology rares. Because I did think it was weird how we just sort of, data mined a bunch of, cool sounding names, but just otherwise generic items that didn't actually do anything.
Yeah, exactly. And like that Frostwolf pup model, oh my god, it's so cute, you guys.
It's so cute.
It's so cute. You definitely want to like hunt that one down. So final question then from Sean Drong. Excuse me, I'm still a little sick and trying not to cough. So given how hostile random group content brackets LFR can be, do you think there is anything Warcraft can do to promote better behavior?
So, that's an interesting question. I mean, there is the group finder tool, and it does have that item level filter where you can't demand people to have a higher item level and carry you through content. So that should get rid of some of the hostility. But that is interesting because I thought Blizzard was going to institute some sort of reward if you did repeat content with Pug players. At BlizzCon, they were talking about extra Valor, I think, and obviously with Valor changing, that's not happening. But I haven't heard anything about that, rewarding people for being nice to each other.
Exactly. So there was going to be that... excuse me, coughing like crazy. There was going to be that, the opposite of luck of the draw, like a sort of a bonus. I look like I've been crying. I haven't, I've just been coughing. So yeah, sorry, random coughing fit from colds. But yeah, and I think that the big change is going to be with the group finder, because you're going to have to be nice to people in that content to actually even get anything done. So I think that's a big change, and the absence of completely random match-made content as opposed to pugs is a really key thing. But yeah, so thank you so much for the questions. Do send the ones in next week with the Wowhead Weekly, WH Weekly hashtag, and we will get around to them, and hopefully I won't be dying of a coughing fit then.
Me too.
Yeah, exactly. So thank you so much for joining us. Do come back next week, excuse me. You can follow me on Twitter at Olivia D. Grace. You can follow Perk on Twitter at Peculiar. You can follow Wowhead on Twitter at Wowhead. And obviously you can find everything that we do, everything that we've talked about, and a whole ton more on wowhead.com. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you again next time.